In 1970, English guitarist John McLaughlin was on the front lines in the battle to break down the barriers between jazz and rock. Over the prior 6 years, he had advanced from his beginnings in the Graham Bond organization, on which he had been an early member alongside the likes of John Heisman, and migrating to the States, where he was playing alongside Miles Davis, and in 1969 put out his debut solo album, the rather jazzy Extrapolation, and in 1970 embracing more of an acid rock influence on his second release, Devotion, and from that album, the track Don't Let the Dragon Eat Your Mother. So far I'm thinking of two things, Terry Kath and Jimi Hendrix. It's almost like the sonic midway between Kath's freeform guitar off the CTA album and some of the psychedelic jams that were being laid down on during the Bitches Brew sessions, like the keyboards and such. This would be perfect with a light show behind it, a liquid light. Oh God, I just love those echoey tones with that quaint production, the production limitations, the slight muffled quality of it all just enhances the appeal. It's like drifting to another place in time. Dated is good in that sense because it takes you out of the here and now. It's basically that the tonic is in D, 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 but there's these other notes, these other instruments that are putting a different slant over the tonic, like throwing in, different accents, like. Yeah, throwing in like minors, going from like major, minor, all that. There's so much layers coming out, like guitar wise. He must be double tracking here because I couldn't imagine him letting another guitarist onto this album. Yeah, there's like wailing tones coming out of here, like these like crying tones that are coming out of my right speaker, and then there's these more mid-range tones that are coming out of the left. On that sparkly glow of the keyboard, we're hearing, just a Fender Rhodes played by Larry Young. like so many of these little solos, they're kind of muffled in the mix slightly. They're kind of blurred sonically. Yet you can appreciate them. There's like a sparkle to all these little parts. You can still appreciate another way, even if the tonal clarity that is somewhat kind of like somewhat blurred. Even if it's somewhat hazy. They must be using a lot of pedals to get all this like it seems like there's like a lot of reverb and there's feedback in certain places, just sustained type sounds and yeah, a lot of the sounds that have made up this piece don't sound so much like notes being hit, being plucked. Oh, there's a little bit of soloing, but most of it just seems to be kind of like sustains that I'm hearing. Like, I wonder if who knows? Maybe some backward effects were used where things fade in. Oozing droplets of distortion and you've got these like glowing sounds that are kind of like going downward. Then you've got this shimmering like sustains that are brimming upward. It really is like the sonic equivalent of a lava lamp or like some big liquid light show. Hear that really high-pitched organ sustain tone that's billowing on the side and those little droplets of notes. Just everything's just kind of discombobulating slowly. It's almost it's like a deconstruction of sounds. It's almost like becoming ever more quiet. I love those fading, echoey tones. Those fade outs where like every last detail counts. Yeah, just it's sonic abstract art. John McLaughlin, Don't Let the Dragon Eat Your Mother. I would imagine kind of a Zappa influenced title. And let's see, who else did we hear on that? Buddy Miles on drums and percussion, Billy Rich on bass, and Ralph MacDonald percussion. Yeah. The 1970 album Devotion, the second solo album by English jazz rock guitarist John McLaughlin, released in 1970 on Douglas Music. With a very psychedelic cover, kind of, oh, I can't quite tell the effect that's put on it. He's all blurred and there's some double vision. It looks like it could have been done like in like some room of mirrors or something, and then manipulated beyond that as well. It really the album cover perfectly matches the music that we just heard. Um, John McLaughlin would never quite get this psychedelic or acidy again. The following year, he would assemble the Mahavishnu Orchestra, the first lineup of that band, and they would put out their first album, and and that had a much tighter sound to it. And it likewise it turned out to be one of the most influential albums in the 1970s because it demonstrated the which elements of rock and jazz could go together. It's like you could you could basically transpose like the legato licks of the jazz guitar to like the electrified fuzzy tones of rock, and you could take the more like adventurous drumming, like the toms, the snare, and such, but you couldn't quite have the cymbal spray characteristic of like post bop and like 50s jazz, because that would get in the way of like the amplified stringed instruments. And you could also have like the walking bass lines on an electric bass, but better yet, you could also like do ostinatos on the bass and have like the bass effectively carry the hummable melodic framework while of a particular track while the guitarist just cut loose with these legato licks and then traded solos with the keyboardist. And yeah, it was like just a visionary landmark at the nexus between rock and jazz, the inner mounting flame. Yeah, and so this album, Devotion, representing a very unique juncture in his career where he was just crossing over, but before he had um, solidified his vision and his approach. For more Rubies and Sapphires from the solo catalog of John McLaughlin, see the directory of albums by English J artists linked in the description below. Like and subscribe and follow me on social media. And leave a comment if there are any observations about this track that you had that I didn't bring up, or anything that stood out to you about the tonality, the sounds, the nuances, and such. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear-traveled trimaximalist, signing off.